So from the Congress now to the Senate, I want to bring in now California Senator Alex Padilla. Senator, thank you for joining. You heard with the Congresswoman say good evening to you. You brought up a point at the Senate Judiciary hearing today on gun violence. It happens to have been held today, and I just want our viewers to hear it, and then we'll discuss it. Here it is.
25 states, voters must be registered and have specific forms of ID in order to cast a ballot. But those same states allow people to buy rifles without permits and require no background checks for some sales. Additionally, in a majority of states, new voters are able to obtain a rifle quicker than they're able to cast their first ballot. It seems to me that we have our priorities entirely backwards.
Why is it easier to buy a gun than it is to vote?
Well, Don, it shouldn't be, and that's my point. As I mentioned in committee earlier today, it seems like we have our priorities backwards, and sadly, we see the impact of voter suppression efforts, election after election, and we see the consequences of lack of smart gun safety laws in mass shooting after mass shooting. A couple this week alone. Our hearts broken, thoughts and prayers are called for, but so is action. And that's what the tone was of Judiciary Committee today, starting with Chairman Durbin.
In the 10 o'clock hour at the open of the show, I connected these two issues. I'm wondering, though, why was it so important for you to connect these two issues of voting and gun legislation? Yeah,
for me, it's because of the recurring theme that ties these two and so many others together. If you've just kind of reflect on the year that we've had during the COVID-19 pandemic, it's devastated all communities, but disproportionately it's impacted communities of color. Gun violence is horrible anywhere in the nation, but it has disproportionately impacted communities of color. Voter suppression. The right to vote is so fundamental in our democracy, yet we know that the laws, both current and those that are being proposed as we speak, have a disproportionate effect of disenfranchising communities of color. We have to call out the inequity, the bias, the discrimination every time we see it.
Senator, I want to read something from the First Lady. Made a particular point earlier, tweeting in part. She says, I just keep thinking about all the leaders who won't take a stand to save lives and yet line up to pass bills that make it harder for us to vote. The lawmakers making it harder for us to vote right now really are Republicans. How do you get past their blockade on gun legislation and voting rights? How do you do it?
No, well, first of all, we're not going to give up, right? We got to keep trying. We need, I think, both an inside game and the outside game. The outside game being, anybody who cares about this has to keep the pressure on. We do so much work organizing around elections, getting people out to vote, get out to the polls or vote by mail, however it is, have your voice heard in the political process. But let's remember, our democracy doesn't come around just every other November. Mm-hmm. We have to stay active in between elections and keep the pressure on. And look, if you live in a safe Republican state or a deep blue state, just as we do during campaign time, you're phone banking, you're calling friends or family members in other states to make sure they get out and vote. Here as well, we got to engage our friends and family in other states, in those deep red states, to have them put pressure on Republican senators to do the right thing. And in terms of the inside perspective, once again, the question, is this going to be the issue that finally breaks the filibuster? The only reason we haven't been able to make progress on so many issues, including gun safety, is this filibuster that requires 60 votes to get anything done. I think we can get bipartisan support if the threshold wasn't as high. So I'm for eliminating the filibuster, to make progress on so many issues. But COVID has been critical and urgent. People have literally been dying. When it comes to gun safety, once again, people are dying. It's time to act.
Senator Padilla, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me back, Don.